In a world obsessed with relationships, where being single is seen as a flaw, there exists a different kind of man. A man who doesn't live alone because he has to, but because he chooses to. Society says he's missing out, that he's incomplete. But what if solitude isn't a weakness? What if it's the ultimate source of power? This is the truth about the man who walks alone, and why he may be stronger, freer, and more focused than anyone you know. From the moment you're born, you're told what makes a man complete. A steady job, a beautiful partner, a family. And somewhere in that checklist, society adds a warning. Don't be alone. Because to live without a girlfriend, to choose solitude over romance, that must mean something is wrong with you. But what if that's not true? What if the man who lives alone, who walks this world without needing anyone, is not lost, but enlightened? The truth is, most people fear silence. They fear sitting with their own thoughts. They run toward distraction, craving attention, companionship, anything to escape the weight of being alone. But there is a different kind of man, a man who doesn't need constant validation, a man who's made peace with the silence and found strength inside it. The ancient Stoics spoke of him. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, men who understood that true freedom begins within the soul, not beside someone else. And today, we'll explore these 7 hidden truths about men who live without a girlfriend. Not because they're broken, but because they've chosen a path most will never understand. Truth number 1, he masters the art of self-sufficiency. There is a certain kind of strength that you'll never find in crowded rooms, in long text threads, or in shared apartments. It's the strength of the man who wakes up alone, who eats in silence, who walks through life without anyone checking in on him, and yet never drifts. For most people, solitude is a sentence. For him, it's a sanctuary. When a man chooses to live alone, he removes every excuse, no one else to blame, no one else to lean on. He becomes the architect of his own survival, and more importantly, his discipline. If the faucet breaks, he fixes it. If he runs low on money, he figures it out. If he's anxious, he sits with it until it passes. The average man fears this kind of life, but the Stoic sees it as a training ground. Seneca said, "He who is content with the least is the richest." This is not just about living without luxury. It's about becoming so complete within yourself that you never need to chase anyone or anything to feel whole. Most men are secretly terrified of being alone. They keep people around, not for love, but to avoid the silence. But the man who lives alone has already faced that silence and walked through it. He knows how to cook his own meals, clean his space, manage his time, his energy, and his mind. And in doing so, he becomes dangerously capable because he's trained himself to need no one, not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of clarity. Because once a man realizes that he is enough, that no woman, no relationship, no companionship is required to complete him, he becomes immune to dependency. He becomes untouchable. And the world, with all its noise, chaos, and expectations, can no longer control him. A man who needs nothing can choose everything. That is the hidden power of self-sufficiency. Truth number 2. He embraces solitude, not as punishment, but as power. Most men fear being alone. They fill every hour with noise, every moment with movement. Headphones in, notifications on, eyes glued to a screen. Not because they're busy, but because they're afraid of the silence. Silence forces you to face yourself. And for many, that's the most terrifying confrontation of all. But the man who lives alone, he doesn't run. He doesn't reach for distractions. He doesn't numb himself with constant entertainment or validation. Instead, he steps into the stillness and breathes. What others see as a void, he sees as a mirror, a place to reflect, a place to sharpen his mind, a place to reclaim control. In a world where everyone's mind is owned by the algorithm, the man who can sit in silence is a rare force. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. And in that retreat, the solitary man trains. He reflects on his purpose. He confronts his shadows. He rewires his thinking, not through distraction, but through discipline. While others scroll to escape their anxiety, he learns to observe it and let it pass. While others chase attention to feel wanted, he cultivates presence and finds that he's already enough. Solitude becomes his classroom, his battlefield, his sanctuary. And in time, he realizes something profound. If you can sit alone in a room with nothing but your own thoughts and feel peace, then the world no longer owns you. Most men will never get there. They'll keep chasing noise, hoping it quiets the storm inside. But the man who embraces solitude doesn't just survive in the silence. He becomes stronger than ever within it. Truth number 3. He gains emotional control and becomes unshakable. Most men live at the mercy of their emotions, tossed around like leaves in the wind. One moment they're confident, the next, they're crumbling. A message left unread, an argument, a bad day, and suddenly, their sense of self-worth collapses. But the man who lives alone, he learns a different way, without a partner to validate him, without someone to comfort him when he's overwhelmed. He's forced to do what most people never attempt. He turns inward. He doesn't have the luxury of venting his frustrations into someone else's arms. He can't escape into affection, reassurance, or distraction. So instead, he sits with the discomfort, the anger, the loneliness, the fear. And in that fire, he learns to breathe. It doesn't happen overnight. At first, the silence feels like it might break him. But eventually, something shifts. He realizes that emotions aren't enemies. They're teachers, signals from within. And once you learn to feel without being ruled, you become untouchable. The Stoics knew this truth well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And the man who lives alone does exactly that. He develops a calm that can't be faked, a presence that can't be disturbed. He doesn't chase attention, affection, or approval. He's done the internal work, and because of that, he becomes a fortress, still on the outside, fierce on the inside. He doesn't erupt when tested. He doesn't beg to be seen. He simply watches, listens, responds with intention, not impulse. A man like this doesn't suppress his emotions. He commands them. And when the world sees that, they can't help but respect it, even if they never understand it. Truth number 4. He unlocks a freedom most men will never taste. Most men don't realize they're in a cage because their prison has pillows, Netflix, and someone who texts them good morning. They confuse comfort with freedom, but look closer. Their money, split. Their decisions, negotiated. Their peace, dependent on someone else's mood. They've traded their autonomy for companionship, and they're too scared to admit they're stuck. But the man who lives alone, he sees through the illusion. While others live by obligation, he lives by design. No pressure to perform for a partner. No guilt for following his own timeline. No need to explain his silence, his ambition, or his solitude. Every hour of his life belongs to him. He can move cities without negotiation, take risks without resistance, invest his money, his time, and his energy into what he believes in, not what someone else expects. This kind of freedom isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's quiet, still, focused. And that's why it's so powerful. Epictetus said it best. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The solitary man doesn't chase status symbols to prove his worth. He strips away the unnecessary. He builds a life so efficient, so intentional, that it becomes impossible to control him. He doesn't need a partner to feel validated. He doesn't need a crowd to feel seen. He doesn't need permission to take the next step. Because once a man has mastered solitude, the world has nothing left to bargain with. And that is the rarest form of freedom a man can have. Truth number 5. He discovers his true purpose without noise, without compromise. Most men wander through life with no direction. They chase goals they didn't choose. They inherit dreams from their peers, their partners, their parents, and call it ambition. But when you strip all of that away, when no one's watching, when there's no one to impress, what remains? That's the question only solitude can answer. And that's why the man who lives alone has such a rare advantage. In the silence, he meets the real version of himself, the unfiltered, unpolished, unprogrammed man underneath all the layers. And in that moment of honesty, he begins to build, not for status, not for applause, not for her, but for legacy. Because while most men are consumed by comfort and connection, this man is consumed by something deeper, his mission. The Stoics called it eudaimonia, not pleasure, not happiness, but a life lived in alignment with virtue and purpose. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." And this man does exactly that. He defines his own code. He writes his own principles, and he aligns his actions with who he wants to become, not who the world says he should be. He's not chasing dopamine. He's chasing discipline. He studies philosophy, trains his body, sharpens his mind. Not because someone is watching, but because he is. Think of history's great men: Marcus Aurelius, Leonardo da Vinci, Miyamoto Musashi. They all spent long stretches in solitude, not to escape life, but to master it. That's what separates the average man from the uncommon one. The average man avoids silence. The uncommon man uses it to sharpen his purpose. Because once a man knows why he wakes up in the morning, he no longer needs to be told what to do. A man with purpose becomes his own compass, and his path becomes unstoppable. Truth number 6, he forms deeper, stronger, and more meaningful connections. We live in the most connected generation in history, but also the most emotionally starved. People collect friends like followers. They confuse attention with intimacy and distraction with love. Most relationships today aren't built on strength. They're built on fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear of sitting in silence with your own mind. That's why people chase text threads, dating apps, and shallow conversations, not to connect, but to escape themselves. But the man who lives alone, he's already faced the silence. He's made peace with himself. And because of that, he no longer needs anyone, which is exactly why his connections are so rare. When he chooses someone, whether a friend, a mentor, or a partner, it's not out of fear, it's out of alignment. He isn't pulled in by beauty alone. He doesn't chase someone who gets him. He connects only with those who challenge him, sharpen him, and elevate him. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This man lives by that rule. While others beg for approval and fear being left behind, he values quality over quantity. He'd rather have one conversation that elevates his mind than 100 that numb it. He walks away from empty connections with ease. Not because he's cold, but because he's clear. And that clarity makes him magnetic. He's not reactive, he's selective. He doesn't need to be liked. He demands to be understood. And that's why the people who enter his life stay, not because he needs them, but because they feel something in him they rarely find elsewhere. Grounded presence, inner peace, purpose. In a world of constant noise, the man who chooses silence commands the most powerful voice of all. Truth number 7, he becomes truly stoic, unshaken by the world around him. Most men are slaves to circumstance. One bad day, one betrayal, one failure, and their entire identity collapses. They break when life gets loud. They fold when things don't go their way. But not this man, the man who lives alone. He spent enough time in silence to know who he is, and that makes him impossible to shake. He doesn't crumble under pressure. He doesn't beg to be understood. He doesn't depend on approval, applause, or acceptance. He walks through life with a calm that commands respect, not because he's emotionless, but because he's anchored. The Stoics taught that inner peace is the only true fortress. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." This man lives that. He doesn't react to rejection. He doesn't panic in chaos. He doesn't break when the world pulls away. Because he understands a truth most will never grasp. The external world is not yours to control, but your mind is. And when you've mastered that, when you've sharpened yourself in solitude, trained yourself through pain, disciplined yourself without applause. You become the one thing this chaotic world can't manipulate: unbreakable. And while others keep looking for peace outside themselves, he carries it within. He is not detached. He is disciplined. He is not cold. He is clear. He is not alone. He is complete. This is the power of the man who lives alone. He is not weak. He is not lost. He is not incomplete. In fact, he may be the strongest man of all, because when you no longer need the world, you're finally free to shape it. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more Stoic wisdom. See you in the next video.